Almost round tripped you there. All right. So, welcome one, welcome all to DeFi Crypto and Airdrops. I am Mike, aka Veteran Crypto. You might have seen me on X or other channels. I usually today I do interviews, but with all of the news that I'm seeing about XRP and Ripple right now, I feel like it's and I don't want to make this sound like that I'm all knowing on this topic, but I feel like it's my responsibility to be the adult in the room because all I see in my feed, and I'll show it here in a second, but all I see in my feed is just nothing but XRP and Ripple news. And it doesn't bug me at all. The issue that I have with it is every single post is misleading. It does not give accurate information on what is going on with Ripple, XRP, the XRPL, and RLUSD. So I'm not going to convey this in a way that is either bullish or bearish on XRP, Ripple, or anything. I am just going to state the facts. Full disclosure, for 5 years, my top holding was XRP. I was in the top 2 or 3% of holders for like 5 years. I had 40,000 XRP and I held all the way up until it got its pump last year, almost a year ago, and I sold at $2. So you can think what you want about that I'm just salty because I sold and it went up to $3 and whatever. I don't care. I got out, I got into other projects and made a bunch more money. I'm not worried about it. You can think what you want. Please, I'm asking you to keep an open mind. Listen to what I have to say, do your own research, and if you find that I'm wrong, please let me know. I post on X constantly trying to educate people on this topic. And all they do is throw insults. And I'm like, can you please just not, I don't care. You can insult me, whatever. But can you please just come back with some sort of rebuttal and cite your sources? Oh, look who's joining us. We got the Druth joining us. Let me add you to the stream here. Actually, here, let's do this.
Yeah. I'm seeing, am I taking over the whole camera here? Or?
Yeah. I wasn't sure if you were going to make it, so I wasn't set up super well. There we go. Okay, there we go. All right, here. All right, there we go. Okay, now, so what I was just telling people, and you know this, Drew. You've known me for years now. So I'm trying to convey this in a way that is not bearish, it's not bullish, it's just these are the facts about XRP. And you know that for years I had a massive amount of XRP. I had 40,000 XRP. It was my top hold and I was very bullish on it. And I'll explain why really quick. Is when XRP was the only asset that could move value on the XRPL, I saw what everyone talks about. I saw where it potentially needed to be a high valuation to move the value that Ripple was trying to move.
Totally.
It just made sense. It wasn't just a gas token. It was the vehicle to move value. However, what I've seen is that they've been talking to banks and institutions. Those banks and institutions told them, we don't want to use XRP, a volatile asset, to move value, where if we send $1 billion and it moves 1% during the transfer, we just lost $10 million.
Right.
That's they can't do business like that. So Ripple said, okay, we'll make RLUSD, a stablecoin backed by the US dollar. Is that okay? And they said, absolutely. We love that idea. And so they came out with RLUSD. That is why I sold my XRP. XRP is becoming a gas token. What do you think?
Well, I mean, the original
rollout of XRP was almost that it was going to be, it was like the first attempt at a stable coin. It's such an old altcoin. There wasn't really stablecoin development at the time when XRP came out. Um, and then, I held XRP before Jay Clayton put the lawsuit on XRP. And I went through that whole time. Like, I remember buying it. It was like my fourth crypto buy. I bought it for like 17 cents. And what really lit me up was the money that Ripple. So Ripple was selling XRP on its holders' heads, and then
Mhm.
funding Greenpeace attack campaigns against Bitcoin with the money that they were, gathering from dumping onto crypto holders'
I didn't know that.
heads. So that was a culturally unacceptable thing for myself to accept. And so beyond that, I mean, yeah, like Ripple as the tech, it seems to be, it's cooked in through Volante, but Volante is only one specific part of the entire FedNow system. And when I really got to thinking about it, I was like, why in the hell would the banking cartel allow a private blockchain
Mhm.
to control their backyard? They, like, all the hope of what crypto can do in the world can't shake the idea in my head that basically banks are going to try to retain control. And it's pretty much what we see happening right now is banks are jockeying and positioning to create private transfer networks that they can tokenize assets, but
Mhm.
have the ability to hide those assets. Because do you really think that Blackstone and BlackRock want everyone to realize that they're dumping single family houses and going into Section 8 housing, right? Like, is that something that's going to be on chain that everyone's just going to be able to see? So the concept of it makes less and less sense to me as I go through this. But I will say this. I was thinking about this in the shower after I did some boxing this morning.
Mhm.
They have XRP holders, token holders, are violently optimistic.
Yes.
And violently optimistic cults do create movements, right? So there is that portion of it. But if Bitcoin does indeed lose $88,000, you're going to once again see XRP at 40 cents.
Mhm.
So it is a altcoin, and I don't want this to be like everyone's trying to paint it as something better than Bitcoin and something that is stronger and more clarified than Bitcoin. There is, think about this, Mike, and this is playing into. We can kind of talk about this a little bit on the show here because I know we're sharpening our sword
Yes.
for the poking of the eye of the bear here, but 70% of altcoin liquidity is provided by Binance to all exchanges.
Mhm.
70% of all exchanges rely on Binance's liquidity for these altcoins, right? October 10th showed me, yes, we see a lot of positioning and a lot of hopes from Paul Atkins to tokenize the whole world, but they do not control this. And they're not going to tokenize the entire US economy until they feel confident they do have control of the situation. Right now, who's in control is old Chinese wallets, right? Old Chinese exchanges, old Chinese connections. And yes, people go, he's not Chinese, he's Canadian. Okay. I
Mhm.
understand that his current residence is in Canadistan. I understand that it's not him that's the CEO, it's Dick Tang, but second in charge
Is his
is
wife.
Yi He. Right. And she owns at least 10% stake. It doesn't even disclose the actual amount of stake that she holds. She's a co founder of Binance and she's his wife, right? So if
Mhm.
we're thinking about, like if CZ's actually pulled out of the picture, it's not real. Um, and yeah, man, like the pressure to buy XRP is simply derived from the
The
mass
hype.
psychosis. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's if for any new person in crypto that finds an interest in crypto, they're going to type on YouTube crypto,
Well,
and they're
dude,
going to
look.
get. Yeah, let me
I
see
I
this.
I didn't search for XRP at all. Look at this.
Mm,
XRP post. Bitcoin, XRP, Ripple, XRP,
right,
Ripple's at the White House.
right.
Um,
I see.
Freaking
I'm in there
Ripple
though.
derangement syndrome.
You go down to mine. I had a
You
great
with
one.
Algo and XRP.
Which one goes
you
in
know,
the trash? Right.
yeah, David Schwartz. A post from him. It's like my whole feed is
Mm,
nothing but XRP,
right. So that's what
and
new
none of it's accurate.
comers.
None of
Right.
it.
Newcomers. They're bombarded with that information. So if you're new to crypto, it must be true, right? Like, and that's
Yeah,
something that. What up, Seth? Good to see you, bro. What up, Josh? What up, Flippa? Flippa's in here. What a G punk drummer. Yeah, this
yeah.
is.
He said the legend Druth has emerged.
It's something that like I have to acknowledge how psychotic the cult is, but also it is a mirage that is just a well controlled and constantly pushed narrative. And if
Well,
Bitcoin does lose 88, I'm thinking that XRP is going back to 40 cents. You know,
I think it's important to note, just like the psychology of that, of the hive mind is people, and I'm guilty of it too. Everybody is. If you hear something enough from enough different places,
yeah.
then you just think it must be true. It
Mm-hmm.
happened before the internet, with all the news outlets.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever you heard on the news, and you've seen those little videos where it has all the different newscasters all saying the same thing, and
Mm-hmm.
then like it shows more of them and more of them, more of them. And it's basically a script. And that's pretty much what I see with XRP. And that's what
Yeah.
concerns me so much. And I'm going to explain it something real quick. So if you look at this pie chart, and this is on rwa.xyz, this is
Mm-hmm.
a third-party platform that is an aggregator of data. This it looks at things like like the XRP Ledger to get its data, and what this tells us, and this isn't me guessing, this isn't something I built. This is RLUSD, the stable coin that is on the XRP Ledger, and that is on the Ethereum mainnet. 80%, over 80% of the RLUSD is on the Ethereum mainnet. So at no point does it even use XRP, not even as gas. Now there's 20% left that's on the XRP ledger. Everyone today was posting about MasterCard and how bullish it was for XRP. No, it's bullish for Ripple, the company, and it's bullish for RLUSD because it's going to be those payments are going to be moved on the XRP ledger, but the value is going to be moved with RLUSD. XRP is a cheap gas token in that use case, and it takes 0.00001 XRP per transaction. That's like with all the value that MasterCard moves. I did the math. That's $1.9 million a year for all the transactions. And that's if all those transactions were $1 transactions. I like gave it a moonshot when I did the math. So it's not even close to 1.9 million. You need to
That's
understand.
insane that you broke down the math like that. I mean, I think that you're the only. And you know what? You're probably the healthiest person to talk about this because I'm a little bit more polarized because of the climate moves that Ripple did, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and me and your relationship actually started with me yelling about XRP and you being slightly annoyed but listening because you
You
were,
woke me up, dude.
you know, and now you're teaching me about some of the pain that they're about to experience. And what you just explained is it's not necessarily like heinously bullish for Ethereum, just this RLUSD thing, but it does say something about the staying power of it, of Ethereum. And, you know, it's something that Ripple owned 80% of the supply when it came out, highly centralized, and they've used this in the past to basically just fund themselves out of the lawsuit. It was good that they fought the lawsuit with that money to a degree, but it was at the expense of holders, and that's why the chart flatlined for all those years. And now they have some hype, and they were hoping for that continued velocity. And like I was thinking, like even in like a general bull market, if XRP could hold number 3 or 4, and we had a normal alt season, if they could hit $4 or $5, but we do not have a normal alt season on our hands, folks. Like we don't,
No.
absolutely not. So, that new project that you tipped me off on,
Canton
yeah,
Network.
we got I did a deep dive video on Discover, and I know you got the info out yesterday about it. Good on you for doing so. And that's kind of the cool part about our network is like, you're busting the alpha out first, and then it flows uphill to the big channel. But at least we're both getting the information out before the token releases officially, on spot trading at least. But Canton is a more logical potential. I also bought a little bit of Linnea. I bought a little bit of Linnea because it's not that I want to
here's
give up.
that Canton that Drew's talking about on
Mhm.
RWA.xyz. Is up
Mhm.
until a couple of days ago, Ethereum was the number one with 443 RWAs on chain and about $12 billion worth of value.
Mhm.
Canton popped up 2 days ago, has
Mhm.
almost 9,000 RWAs on chain
Mhm.
and almost $400 billion of TVL. It dwarfs Ethereum. Their token is going. You're interested. Oh,
Yeah, no,
yeah.
I lost you what you were saying there a little bit, but I'm
Well,
gonna
well,
carefully DCA
Canton
into
is
this.
launching on all the major exchanges on the 25th of November.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm gonna be carefully DCAing into it, right? Because I don't want
Yeah.
to like buy the front end.
No.
Usually, when these things release, the front end is like the insiders with the token selling it down, and
It's a
then
fair launch. Like
it's a fair launch.
they're not holding any tokens.
And something else about it, they didn't allow VCs into it. So maybe I actually might have to go a little bit heavier on the front end, because usually those dumps when tokens release are VC insiders rubbing their hands together, getting ready for retail door to open, and then they just gush onto the market, but they weren't allowed into this. And there's also IBM, Microsoft actively testing on it. Like, I've not seen the amount of big companies actively testing on anything out of the gates like I'm seeing with Canton. So, or Cantor. Isn't it Canton or Cantor? What's the official name?
Canton. It's a
Canton.
CANTON.
Okay. Can make
So
tons of money.
there's 6 trillion plus on chain.
Right. Then that tells me that they're lining up, and those are probably on-chain commitments between Citadel, Paribas. Ooh, Mike just went off. Am I still alive? One in chat. One in chat. Are we still alive, Mike?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay,
we're still
okay.
live.
You got cut off for a sec. So this $6 trillion number that they're talking about on assets on chain, it could be just committed assets to come on chain between the consortium of Blackstone, Citadel, BNB Paribas, like all of the different massive firms that are backing this thing could have committed that amount and have tested in with this first chunk of $400 billion. But I don't think that I've ever seen anything with this much commitment from the big ones ever in crypto. And it's rolling
Yeah.
out when everyone's basically like packing up their bags and leaving the market, which is a perfect time. If I'm BlackRock and Blackstone and Microsoft and IBM, I want all of the plebes out of the way and uninterested before I roll this thing out. I really, really do. So,
So yeah, no, it's I'm very excited about Canton for sure. But one thing I'd like to get back to XRP. One thing that I was really bullish on when I was holding XRP was the SEC lawsuit. And I want to break that down really quick because there's something that I've been saying recently that I haven't seen anybody else mention. We all thought that XRP, and in a way, it was bullish for crypto. But everyone thought that Ripple was fighting the SEC on behalf of XRP holders. I see it a little differently, because if XRP was found to be a security, then they would have had to pay a bunch of fees or fines, and they also would have a fiduciary responsibility to XRP holders, just like if it was a stock. And so they spent hundreds of millions of dollars to fight it, but they've made billions of dollars selling XRP on the heads of XRP holders. They have no financial obligation to XRP holders. And with the XRP they've been selling, yes, they've been buying and acquiring companies, and trying to become a bank and a financial institution and things like that. Very, very bullish for Ripple. Very bullish. Very bullish for XRPL. But XRP is not a stock, and it does not give you any legal contract for ownership, for equity, for profits from Ripple whatsoever. You need to understand that. That is core to what XRP is. And again, RLUSD replaced the majority of the use case that was going to make XRP a high valuation. XRP, you can buy 100 XRP as an institution, and it would probably last you for a couple of months or a year, doing transactions all the time. Because again, it takes a fraction of 0.00001 XRP to do a transaction. You can do thousands of
We need to
transactions.
condense your knowledge on this into punchy mind dribble that is what XRP Army listens to. Because you're giving so many facts that it's going to go over their heads. I think we should actually start making shorts for you explaining this in a concise manner. Get this out, because it's most of the hopium is on TikTok and on Instagram and on Facebook that I see. And you're dropping absolute truth bombs right now, and statistical truth bombs that people really, really need to hear this information. The attention span is been so dwindled down for me. That's what I experience with viewership. For new people coming in, they just want to hear it's going to the moon, or this is why it sucks within 30 seconds. And it's hard to explain everything that you just did within that time frame. But I think me and you should work together to script it out and make it happen, because this is stuff they need to hear, man. This is stuff that they need to hear.
And I'm not saying this out of hate, for XRP holders. I'm not trying to FUD your bags. I'm trying to save you from being exit liquidity. I was telling people to sell XRP at $3. I sold at $2. I was telling people sell at $3 and get into other projects. Even if XRP, none of this stuff that I was saying was true. It already has such a massive market cap. You would have been better off getting into other projects, getting into Arrow at 30 cents, and gotten another,
People
what I mean?
Yell at me and they say that I left so much behind, and it's I got it for 17. I cheated 90% of it for 70 cents. I still have a couple hundred tokens that I forgot to sell in some side wallet. But I was able to get my first aerodrome buy with that money, and liquidity was 18 cents, right? And now I've taken profits a few times on aerodrome when it hit $2 range. And so the vast majority of my money that is in these bags is house money at this point, because I've been actively taking profits. If I see a 3 or 4x, I'm leaving just the moonshot level on the table, and then I wait for the dip to come back down. And this coming bear market, there will be a bear market. I don't know when, but your channel and trading, if you can choose your path, either DeFi or just choosing your bias turning bearish and then shorting the market, earning tether, and then buying more Bitcoin as it gets cheaper and cheaper and cheaper into the next.
Dude. I can show you how to short any token in DeFi, basically by taking out loans. So you basically loan it out, and then you take a loan out on the on say ETH. If you want to short ETH, then you take a loan out on it, because when you pay back a crypto loan, You pay back the amount of the token, not the dollar amount.
Oh,
So yeah. Yeah. So
you
if you take
savage.
out 1 ETH and, at $10,000, we'll say, and it goes down to $5,000, basically you take out a loan on 1 ETH, you convert it to USD to lock in the value.
Oh my
When it
God.
dumps down to 5,000, you use half of that to buy that ETH back, pay back your loan, and keep the other
Yeah.
$5,000.
Yeah. And, I see someone says short XRP, then I will. When Bitcoin breaks below 86K, I'm going to short the living shit out of XRP and most altcoins.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Here, let me see what these babies need. What's
I
up,
know.
honey?
And Folsom, I saw your comment. Oh, we got Pat McCrotch is in here. your pops, your pops showed up for the XRP alpha.
My
No,
dad's
hey,
been about XRP for a long time too. We have really good
yeah,
conversations about it. And he has really low entry points, and it's not like even my family holds this token that I'm sitting here complaining about. Just so we're all clear, and we say these things. People have their own thesis, but it's information. Like me and Mike, we have such an interesting relationship because it's a situationship. We have been up against a hive mind of lies in the crypto space. And maybe we're not saying the sexiest things to people at the time, and it's not what they want to hear, but it's something that
we're
I
giving
think
tough
me and,
love.
yeah, we're giving tough love, and we're saying things that they need to hear, not that they want to hear, because we actually care about people doing better with their bags, right? So
Well,
it's something I like seeing. I like seeing your growth, man.
well, take a look at these charts, Drew, and tell me what you see, because I mean you're really good at charts. So I'll just go down and kind of tell you what each one is. So this first one is the number of payments from one account to the other on the XRP Ledger, and it starts in December of 2024.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, does this look like a chart of growth where there's
I mean, it looks consistent.
yeah.
But the thing that's missing here is the massive upswing to $2-3 is not representative with with this chart. It's not there, right? So um,
And
it's
I'm glad you brought that up. Price
mhm,
skyrocketed, but the use of the network didn't.
right,
They weren't
right,
correlated. And it's
right. It's
because it
speculation.
was hype.
Hmm. Absolutely, absolutely. And it's like we have to think back at what caused that major pump, dude. It was the SEC case, but also a it wasn't a staffer, but it was someone within the White House that's actually a lobbying agent for Ripple that somehow got the information to Trump's internal team to include XRP in that crypto reserve asset tweet. That crypto asset reserve tweet is what caused the real juice to start flowing into XRP because people were ready to just fucking hammer in and start speculating on it.
Mhm.
And then it was quietly revealed that Ripple and Brad Garlinghouse are in the doghouse with Trump now and can't even get a chance to speak with him
Mhm.
because Trump found out that a person that literally lobbies for Ripple was the
Mhm.
one that was behind that additional XRP add on to his crypto reserve asset tweet. This is
Mhm.
reality, and this is the situation at hand, and it's likely why Ripple got their little donation in for his ballroom, and they're trying to put a
Mhm.
flower on the table. But notice the only
Makeopa.
right make Hopa, but the only person that was allowed to speak at the White House to the president about crypto infrastructure was Sergey Nazarov of Chainlink.
Yeah.
That's the only person that was allowed to speak. Brad sat right next to him, cocked all the way to the cows come home. Didn't have a chance to speak. You could see he had his hands folded, his body language was curled up, and he knew that he is not at the seat. He is not at the big boys table. Though he was represented there and he paid for his chance to be at that table, he wasn't allowed to speak to Dissent or Trump when they were talking about crypto regulation. So it's just crazy times, bro. It's crazy times.
Yeah. So here's the next chart. So this is XRP payment volume from one account to another.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing. It was more active back in 2022, 2023 during the bear market than it
Mm-hmm.
is now.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. And Folsom is saying some real stuff like most of these altcoins are vaporware, right?
Yeah,
Most altcoins are vaporware. And think about how many altcoins or meme coins are out there now. There are 25, 26 million different coins out there.
like
Pump Fund,
97% are fit that category.
right. Pump Fund created millions of these things. And then you have all of the different chains jockeying, well, we got to get a meme coin deployer out and we got to let everyone tokenize everything. Base has got Zora, which tokenizes literally a picture I put up. If I put up a set of words and make a sentence on a
Mhm.
social media application that's on blockchain, it turns that into a token too. So
Oh,
everything that
yeah,
I
and it
do,
pumped out fun. I had to create a meme coin just so I could stream on it.
right. And so when you think about this, it's oversaturation, a thinning of the herd is required, and there will be a consolidation of power. Just like the dot-com bubble, it wasn't all 10,000 tech companies or the internet companies that were popping off during the dot-com bubble. It
Mhm.
was 30, 40 different companies that even had a chance to continue developing and accelerating into that massive, massive upswing that eventually did come for the internet and the dot-com explosion.
Mhm.
But through the process, there was a lot of blood, and there will be blood here in crypto.
Oh,
Absolutely.
absolutely. No, it's gonna be exactly like the dot coms. There's gonna be
Mm,
maybe 5% of these companies, if that, that are gonna, survive the culling.
right.
And what Folsom was saying is exactly right. Is it's gonna come down to we have been 100% in a speculative market because there
Hmm.
was no adoption, there was no guardrails, there was no regulation. So nobody could operate, legally. So it
Hmm.
was basically just a bunch of people saying, this is what we're building. This is, the pain point we're trying to address. Buy our token. We're awesome.
Hmm.
And that's what the market we've been in for the past. And that's why this one's different is we're getting regulation. We're getting the guide rails and you're getting institutions that are starting to invest. Institutional money does not move like retail money.
Right. Right.
Institutions, they do not put their money into vaporware.
Hmm.
They do their due diligence. If they're
Hmm.
investing in things like Chainlink, if they're investing in, like solid projects, like Bitcoin, you know, they they have, like I was talking about before, with the SEC and Ripple, they have a fiduciary responsibility to the people whose liquidity they manage to ensure that they protect those assets. And if they're found to, be breaking any rules, there is huge penalties for that.
Right.
So we're moving from a speculative market to a utility market. And it's going to get to the point to where if these projects cannot prove their utility, yes, I want you to use Bitcoin. If they
I love
cannot
this
prove
picture.
their utility, they are going to go away.
Hmm. Yeah. And that's something that's hard for people to accept, but it's just something that I think it's better if me and you talk about this before it happens. And it doesn't
Mhm.
matter. They're still going to come at me 2 years from now, a year from now. You didn't warn me, and I didn't want. And they won't admit that they've been ignoring me for years, right? They'll
Yeah.
just come back on the big channel and yell at me because I was wrong about the super cycle and stuff. And it's like I've been acknowledging that this bull market is statistically different ever since we hit all time highs. Like ever since we hit all time highs and spent, I think, like 300 days ranging at all time highs
Mhm.
while ETFs were live, it's like, what the fuck is going on here? And then the yen carry trade wipes out like $3 trillion. And then
Mhm.
the Bank of Japan's like, you know what? We're going to keep rates low. Everything's fine, you guys. Like, no, this is great. And then we get the inauguration. We pump up to 107K from the inauguration and the pro Bitcoin president. Great. But the problem that I've seen, especially within the past week, is that Trump and Xi within China completely undid all of the tariff war bullshit that's been going on since March. They wiped
Mhm.
it all off the table, and the market didn't give a fuck. It did not care at all. And I'm sorry for cursing, but the market did not
I don't care, dude.
wince.
On this channel, freaking, we're
Okay,
free.
okay.
We're free to
Yeah.
talk and say whatever the fuck we want.
So the market didn't care. It didn't pump. Like, instead it dumped the moment that it like smelled any sort of bearishness. Bearishness is moving the market now. So we need to think nasty, we need to think greedy, and we need to use the DeFi know-how that you have with gain and essentially shorting in DeFi. But then also, as I am a trader, and I'm a very profitable trader, even in this dog shit market, which I'm super excited about because I can't wait for this 4-year cycle. If it is still in place, I am going to absolutely slaughter all of these altcoins on the way back down and earn a ton of tether and then buy more cheaper Bitcoin with that. And nothing sounds
Absolutely.
more delicious than doing that to me. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I mean, Bitcoin's going to $1 million in 10 years, and that's conservative. So it's like, if I can see this market collapse down to $70,000, $60,000 for Bitcoin, that's back up the truck moment. And I haven't had one of those in a long time, right? Like, I haven't had a back up the truck moment since the yen carry trade situation. We are at a time frame where this should be, on a time frame basis, the top for Bitcoin and crypto right now. So if we have some sort of fake out and we are able to breach past essentially $108,000, make it back up into that old trading range we have, and then rinse and repeat this ball under the water type action that we've had at each range, 70,000, we pump, I got to go this way. So we're at $70,000, we get pushed down from the end carry trade, boom, and then we go up to the next range. Same thing, inauguration, and then we kind of level out, and then the washout from the trade war, boom, we pump up when we touched 75K again. Now we're at that moment where we've been ranging, and now we've dropped down to the previous range high, and if we do not get that little boop, then it's a boop the other way, right? And so we just have to be men about this situation. We have to grab our ball sack, think sack nasty, and short it in different mechanisms to earn more. Do DeFi when the market's boring, the ranges are tight, the yield will be great, and then you move on, right?
Yeah.
So it's just a thing. It's just a thing.
Absolutely. And here's another chart. Number of active accounts. Back here in December of 2024, there was a lot more accounts. They petered off, and it's been flat ever since. No growth.
Yeah, that's scary.
XRP burn fees. Back last year, there was all kinds of burning going on. Look at this. There's like next to none being burned now.
Right. And another thing, Mike, I have been trolling XRP pretty effectively on Twitter, and I say things that could be construed as like I like it, just to like see who likes it. And it's all fake women accounts, bot accounts. Like they get the adrenaline and the serotonin from these fake women with hot pictures, and they go like what you're saying, and there's like 20 of them, and you're like, holy shit. Like, if you're a guy that thinks with his dick, then you're going in and you're posting about XRP every single day because you got all these babes that love what you're saying on X, and they're all fake accounts. They're like some bot farm in, Indonesia or whoever the hell Brad Garlinghouse paid.
There's somebody. I'm glad you said that. There's somebody behind, all of these, influencers that are dedicated to XRP. That's all they talk about.
Yeah, and some of them are retarded. There's a bunch of just basically retarded influencers out there.
Yeah,
but there's a couple that are.
But every time Ripple has an event, like the Ripple Swell, they're all there. The Ripple party that to celebrate the SEC victory, they were all there.
Think about this. It's a growth hack for an influencer trying to make a come up. They need views, and it's a growth hack for them to post about XRP or to post about Algorand. AJ, I laughed about this when he started bull posting about Algorand, even though he didn't really fucking believe in it, because he got so much hype, love from the community, and he wanted to grow. All he cares about is his visibility out on X, right?
Yeah.
I told him straight to his face, this is exactly like pitching your tent in the back of someone's fucking backyard just so you can eat their food and then move on. Oh, yeah. And then now look, I mean, he's just stayed down the same road. He's leaned
Mhm.
into it because he's seen that it grows his account, right?
Well,
So,
I mean, he who shall not be named. I mean, that's how he, grew the channel.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I mean, it's, and I see it out there. I mean, me myself, it's like, yes, I would love to get more viewers. I would love to grow the channel, but my integrity is more important. It's
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to
Absolutely.
put good quality content out there.
Mm-hmm.
If people like it or not, if they follow me or not,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to keep on. I mean, I've been doing this for free for a year. I just barely monetized a couple of things,
Right, right.
but I do this. It's a labor of love for me.
Yep,
This isn't, I'm never going to get rich off doing this channel,
right.
but I am going to be able to help people and educate people on crypto and help them avoid some of the mistakes that I made coming
Yes,
into crypto, and some
absolutely.
of, navigate this minefield of, endless hype and tokens and, everything else.
Yes. And, it's just so crazy you bring up the XRP section that used to be every single day on that show, bro. Me and Johnny were responsible for setting up the rundown every morning and then picking the stories. And it got to a point where I just fucking refused to write it in there. I was like, I'm sorry, I didn't find anything out there. Because you don't need it every day. And like every single day, even when everything was in the gutter, you would
Yeah.
see some massive coin telegraph XRP bulls are ready for the next market before everyone else story. And every single day I was the researcher and in charge of organizing those. So I would show up very early and basically see what media is doing. And it just dawned on me, this is a fucking psyop. This is a psyop
Mhm.
that is purposely being put in front of people to lead them the wrong direction. So, God bless them if they make a cult strong enough to bring it to a $400 billion market cap. At this point, I fucking doubt it. With how this market is going, I completely doubt that that's going to happen. It's just an insane time. It's an insane time, bro.
It's, yeah, it's, I don't get it. But I can scroll down all these charts and they're all the same. They're all, either, on a down slope, or they're just flatlined almost.
Mm-hmm.
Number of transactions executed.
Mm-hmm.
Over this past year, all this bullish news that you're hearing, supposedly bullish news about XRP
Mm-hmm.
hasn't affected the XRP at all.
Right.
Here's this one. Number of successful transactions. Same thing.
Mm.
This one here, number of new accounts activated, a couple of spikes, but then immediate declines.
Right.
There was more
Right.
going on last year.
Well, and think about this: the
Number of
angle
average
for them,
transactions per ledger,
they want to
number of closed
replace
ledger.
Swift, right? You want to replace the most powerful, largest money transmitter on the planet. You're just gonna take them over, right? Like that's retarded. It's not going to happen. Like unless
No.
you feel like so. Like, I don't know how else to break it to people. We got to bring the hard R retarded word back for this
Yeah.
situation as well. I think making bullying great again is a focus that I'm really kind of starting to lean into because people need the truth, and oftentimes, it comes through bullying. So,
Yeah. I cannot stress enough. And you know what? I need to back up a little bit. Let me explain what each item is, that's part of this conversation. So you have Ripple. Ripple is the actual company that Brad Garlinghouse is a CEO, and they're the ones that are talking to different banks and institutions, and they're the physical company. So
mm,
that's Ripple. XRP, or let's actually XRPL, is the actual blockchain or the technology that the information and value moves on. So, kind of like Ethereum or Bitcoin. Ethereum is probably a better representation of it. It's where everything happens, the XRPL. XRP is the gas token. So just like Ethereum, it's what you pay to use the network. It's the toll that you pay to use the highway. Think of the XRPL as the highway. XRP is the toll that you pay to use the highway. Now, It used to be that XRP was the vehicle that moved the value or the information. Now it's RLUSD, except in very specific cases. So in USD backed assets, like USD to USD backed assets, it uses one. And then if it's non-USD backed assets, it uses the other. But it's a very small portion of what is being done. And I highly, highly suspect that that is going to change here in the near future. Because again, institutions and banks do not want to use a volatile asset to move value. And then RLUSD is a stablecoin that is backed 1-to-1 with the US dollar so that it's in compliance with the Stablecoin Act, to where it actually is legal to use by US institutions, US banks for, its use case. So that's what each of those are. So and it's very important to not conflate or confuse how those interact with each other, because Ripple can do huge things and their valuation can go through the roof. They could take over the whole financial, network across the globe. That does not mean XRP is going to go up. Again, there's RLUSD to move the value. XRP doesn't need to be a huge valuation as a gas token that's as cheap as it is.
And you know what's so fucked up in this story is that Chainlink is the one that they have to pay CCIP fees to even do it anyways. That's so jacked up. That's why, like, when I saw hard-sided real partnership with Swift, I was just like, I'm going in. I'm tired of this hoping about XRP dethroning everything. And that's where my conviction, because I bought Bitcoin, Ethereum, like I bought my Bitcoin is 4K, Ethereum is 180 bucks, XRP was 17 cents, and then Chainlink was $1.90. And I bought all four of those with size. But then when I realized what had really changed and who was actually going to be the underlying winner in global transaction crypto involvement is Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Chainlink, right? So in that order is how I view the structural and systemically important cryptos that are out there right now. And obviously Binance is the Chinese side of crypto control, which is still very, very strong. And the Chinese may well just make sure that this 4-year cycle rinses and repeats the same way, even though American markets think, oh, we're going to tokenize these high rises and this is the new paradigm. It would be pretty hilarious for the CCP to dump a ton of Bitcoin on American markets right as they're trying to get this going. And then the hammer will come down on regulatory framework and likely won't include decentralized systems, right? Because they're not going to allow it.
Me and you got a show coming up here soon that we're talking about where we're going to pull back the curtain on a pretty big player that's been dumping Bitcoin.
I got to come on for that. I'm just setting up my board.
No, I mean, me and you have been talking about doing that episode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and it's we're going to be poking the eye of the beast with that episode.
Yeah, it starts with a B, it ends with an ants.
Yeah, it's something that needs to be dealt with. And what Raoul Paul is not taking into account, the banana zone idea, is the fact that Wintermute and Binance still control altcoins, right? They still control this setup. So until that changes, it's basically going to remain the same. I mean, I think Chainlink is going to be able to escape out of that. New things like this Canton network is why I bought a little bit of it. I bought a little Linnea because who's working with Swift is Chainlink and Linnea as of right now. Linnea is, for all intents and purposes, Consensus, which is a very old school power mechanism company within the Ethereum network and the Ethereum development in general. So they're the winners, and so I'm taking small little risky plays on them. I'm fine with it. And yeah, dude, like I understand that Raoul Paul, he puts up nice charts and he talks about global liquidity in an eloquent manner, but he is not taking into account the chaos factor of the reality of our world that we live in right now. And that's where I can pick holes through his thesis all the way through every every sentence he says. Almost I can poke holes into. So, and I shouldn't be able to do because apparently I'm a hillbilly near Alabama. Why is someone like me able to poke holes just because I've been? I don't want to go on too much of a rant about Rand, but I'll let you.
No, go ahead.
No, I was that Charlie. Are we on RWA.xyz?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. I want. When's the Provenance coming out? Is that coming out at all? When is Provenance coming out? Have you
So
looked at Provenance?
I haven't done a deep dive on it yet. That was kind of next on my roster that I was actually thinking about doing tomorrow. Jeff is traveling, so he's not going to be able to be on. So I'll be on by myself tomorrow. But I'm thinking about doing it on Provenance.
I might come on with you. You know, like if I can do
Let
it
me
like
know.
this and just walk around my house ranting with you, I mean that's great.
Yeah.
You know,
No, that's fine, dude.
You know, so yeah, it's
But
just
yeah,
like
look at Providence. I mean, it's just been
insane.
freaking steady climbing.
It's insane. So, you know, and just it, guys, like if we are heading into Thunderdome and this is just a 4-year cycle repeated with no euphoria and Bitcoin falls and altcoins go extinct for a lot of them.
Yeah.
Just change your thesis, right? You have to adapt with your environment. The happiest animal in the jungle is the chameleon. He can change with the environment. He can blend in. He can work with his environment that's around him. It's not the lion, right? It's the chameleon because no one sees him. They leave him alone and he can make his money, eat his leaves, and no one bothers him. So if we just go with the flow, and I'm taking a if this, then that type approach to this market right now, you know, not setting my expectations way too high, but I've been saying this for a long time. A 5X is a 5X, and you're outpacing inflation. So, um,
Hey, what's up, Josh?
oh snap! What up, Josh Dallas? Sadness. Do you have the ban button in this?
Josh was actually in Hawaii, camping on my property about a week or two ago.
Whoa, man! We got to build you in like a Moab button or something like that, so we can get Sack Nasty taken care of every now and again.
Oh yeah, give him the hammer. Yeah, we definitely need to.
Well, I
need to
think
come
from
up with
where
something
you
like
come
that.
from, a Moab is more appropriate, right? Or something
For me,
thick.
yeah. Just
Or
have
a
like a
warthog.
big. I have a big bunker buster like landing and just this giant mushroom cloud going.
Absolutely, absolutely. We smoked him out, folks. But
and you know what? And then have Trump talking about when they went in and killed that terrorist. He's like, he was crying, you know, like a little baby. And he's like, the Navy SEALs came through the wall with the dogs.
Rebel, this is definitely a show worth rewatching too. I mean, I think Mike just broke down very mathematically why XRP is not going to hit $20 even. And then we dove into so many things that I think creators are afraid to admit to because they're tied to that community. They have pitched their tent in the backyard of XRP and they can't leave.
Look, if you say anything that is even construed as being negative about XRP, they just come at you like rabid dogs.
Right. I know. I want to
Imagine
box
if your
like the
whole
main
channel.
one. We should find a main influencer I can just box, and I'll be Chainlink versus XRP or something like that. That's always been on my mind.
You know? Oh, dude, I'm 51 years old, and I'd go into the ring. I'd freaking throw some bows. But no, man, it's just imagine if your channel, imagine if Discover Crypto or Blockchain Basement was just 100% all you talked about was XRP. All your viewership, all your sponsorships depended on you talking bullish constantly about XRP, and then you put out anything that we've talked about on this episode. Anything that is remotely bearish about XRP, how it would destroy your channel.
Yeah, I mean, you lose viewership, and you don't really. I've learned to gain viewership from riling them up and making them argue with me. So that works, but they do kind of resemble Democrats. It
Poke
is a
the
very
hornet's nest.
yeah, and I'm fine. I got a thick skin, and I've been through crypto and the culture of crypto. Now I'm on the inside of crypto. And I will say that a vast majority of creators are veneers of what they show. They are not reality. And it
Well, you
is,
would know. I mean, you've been
yeah,
in this,
absolutely.
crypto sphere and gone to the different, Bitcoin Nashville and, all
Mm,
the different conventions. So you've seen how they are off, off
right.
camera.
Absolutely. I mean, I get to hear about them crashing out about how bad things went. Like I used to handle ATB, and I got a Rolodex of hundreds of these
Mm.
influencers, and I was the production director, so I was the guy running the cameras. Just because, like, I came up in crypto from just
A
investor,
researcher.
visionary to researcher with
Yeah.
Hit Network, and then just by design of necessity, I learned how to run the cameras. And then it came to a point that one day that TJ had to go deal with some serious shit. He had
Mhm.
to stand up off the stand at Blockchain Basement. I was the guy on the camera, and everyone's in the room like, "Are we still having a show?" I'm like, "Fuck yeah, we're having a show." And so I take the controls. I
You're
take the
you're like, "I'm
controls
getting
and I
called up to the
go.
big show."
I know. And so I like, and I had never hosted anything before. I'd been a music, like I'd sang for years on national stages. So I have a familiarity with large crowds and things like that.
Yeah, you don't have stage fright. Yeah.
Right. I didn't have, but it was exhilarating. And it was a hell of a time.
You're like Ace Ventura. "Put me
Yeah.
in, coach."
And I just sent it and it worked. And so, that's been my experience growing through crypto. And it is something that I still have that baseline, just raw research and truth approach. Gosh, my daughter is just going absolutely crazy right
Oh,
now. Honey,
it's
honey,
all
honey,
good,
honey.
dude. It's your
Hold on, let me
family.
mute real quick. You take for a sec.
Alright. Yeah, yeah, I mean, actually really quick, let me address something. I had one of, our, people in our community, had a question earlier about liquidity pools. Are you still here? Um, Victor, are you still here? I don't wanna explain, impermanent loss and stuff and unless you're gonna get the alpha from it. So Victor, let me know if you're still around and I'll explain what we were talking about. It's a little bit of a complex topic. So actually, you know what? I'll just explain it and I'll let you know that I did it on here. So what you were asking is if you go out of range, and let me pull it up real quick. I'll actually just pull up the conversation so that, all right, where are we at? Oh, yeah, DeFi questions. There we go. All right. So now this is the pool that you are in. Now, this is a wrapped ETH USDC pool. So ETH has dumped and it is gone out of the bottom of your range. So right now, you should be all in on wrapped ETH. So right now, you're basically hodling whatever ETH you have. So you currently have $742.19 of ETH. So if ETH goes up, that number is going to go up all the way up until you go back into range. Then, and it's, so you might have like 800 or 800 and something dollars at that point. But as you get back into range and it keeps going up in this range, it's going to start selling off that wrapped ETH into USDC. As it hits the top end of the range, you're going to be all in on USDC. And if it keeps going, you're missing out on, any price appreciation. You're going to be basically locked in on USDC, whatever that dollar amount is. Now, your question was if you rebalance down here. So you can do what's called a snuggle rebalance and you can move like whatever this top end range, price is, if you keep that the same, and you move this bottom end so you're back into range, basically what you're going to do is sell just enough wrapped ETH to get you back into range and earning again. But you're not going to lock in all of the impermanent loss. Just enough to get back into range. That's one thing you can do. The other thing you can do is just hodl. And that's why I'm always talking about in these pools. If you believe in the assets, it's easier to do this. Wrapped ETH is Ethereum. As long as you're bullish on Ethereum, you're hodling a bag of Ethereum. Okay. when the market goes back up, Ethereum's going to go back up. Don't sweat it. If you want to keep earning, that's one thing, but don't worry about being out of range if you're in like a Bitcoin pool or an ETH pool or it's a good solid asset. Don't sweat it. So I hope that answered your question, brother.
Very based, Mike, as always. Jesus. So many things to think about for people. Maybe you tuned in, you clicked on the link because of Mike's wonderful clickbait. We discussed some
Gotcha, fucker.
we got you. Okay. And if you've made it this far, first of all, I commend you for hearing something that is against your paradigm because you've made it very far. The idea of intelligence is being able to take new information and adjust accordingly. And it is important for us as people that want to invest in the most disruptive technology likely since the pen. And now we are in the midst of AI rolling out and crypto. It's a lot to take in. It's a lot of information to take in. Me and Mike do our best to consolidate it down to our human bite-sized chunks. And it takes a lot of work and a lot of research to do so. And Mike does this because he cares about you, right?
Yeah.
He cares about you. And I do get a paycheck as an independent researcher from Hit Network, but TJ allows me to take aim at anything that I want to. I am not beholden to anything.
That's really cool of him too.
It is. It is. I've never imagined, and I don't think I've ran into a single crypto company that allows that to happen. TJ is literally the only person that I've ever seen as a business owner in crypto that allows me, a content creator and a researcher and a show director, to take aim at anything that I see as necessary that given day. And it's really allowed us to bring the truth to people. And I think that that is something that more people need to hear than ever before in crypto. There's shell shock. There's confusion about what just happened with October 10th. I'm telling you right now, there's a systemic risk that Binance poses to altcoins. There's a 10% ability that they have on any given day to dump Bitcoin by 10% because of how much Bitcoin and control they have with liquidity. It is a major risk. And of course, Michael Saylor would not respond to me on my hard question I gave to him. How are you going to change the world if Binance controls your bags, bro? Right? So that is something to think about. He has a big chunk, but he still has chunks of debt, right? Cubic zirconia. Oh my God.
My diamond hands turn out to be cubic zirconia.
Yeah.
I want to meet your dad someday.
Dude, really he is so awesome. Like he gave me a great childhood. He helped me understand what it meant to grow up in a great home. And I've been able, through what my dad and my mom showed me, through their, abilities to work hard to give me and my brother a good house, he helped me break legacy level trauma with people that are now in my life that thought that family structure and family love and long-term outlooks on family wasn't a reality. And now I have 4 kids, a beautiful wife, and a scary legacy of that there's nothing good out there, completely shattered from the framework and the groundwork that my dad laid out when I was a child. So shout out to you, Pops. Shout out to you.
That's awesome, man.
So I'm going to put these kids to bed. My daughter's got a question here. She's raising her hand. So
all right. What's her question?
Oh, hold on. You got an answer for me, honey?
You see, Remy keeps saying "shut the f up."
Oh my gosh. Okay, I got to go deal with this. Remy's being spicy. Oh my gosh.
All right, brother. Well, you have a good night, man.
All right, see you,
get a hold of me tomorrow, and we can talk about the show.
All right, I'll see you, man.
He's refusing to put her hands in the water.
All right. So that's the truth. That's he's I love that guy. He definitely he's the one that actually made this channel possible. So I've been watching the Blockchain Basement and Discover Crypto for years, and started working with them a little bit, helping them out with some research and things like that. Back when they had Hannah on the basement, and they had Nick and all of them, and yeah, I got into DeFi, got really knowledgeable about it, and he went to bat for me and talked to TJ about letting me take over, this channel and rebrand it. So, thank you, thank you to TJ, thank you to to Drew for that. But anyway, let me know if you have any questions in the chat. I'm going to really drill in because I genuinely want people to just, if you hold XRP, fine. If you're bullish on it and you feel like it's a long-term investment, I'm not trying to talk you out of it. I am just wanting to make sure that you're knowledgeable about what XRP, what Ripple, what the XRPL, and what RLUSD are, and what their roles are in Ripple's offerings. And because a lot of people, I see it all day long while I'm engaging on X, is people don't understand. They haven't done their own research. They saw a social media post that got them hyped up. They bought. They immediately went and found, just like I did. I'm not immune. I went and found, and I won't name the channels because I don't want to seem like I'm trying to talk bad about people. But you know who I'm talking about. There is channels that are dedicated to XRP, and it's a confirmation bias. And so I went out and I found those channels because I wanted to learn about XRP. And so I listened to them, every day, every morning while I was drinking my coffee. And they just would say nothing but bullish things and get me excited about, XRP, and get everybody excited about XRP and, how it was going to, take over, and the switch was about to get flipped, and, all those buzzwords that they're always using. At some point, when I was watching Drew on the blockchain basement, he said something, and I honestly, I couldn't tell you what it was, that clicked with me. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do my own deep dive on it. I'm going to look at how this all works. And it was right around the time that it was, I'd say, a couple of months before they launched RLUSD. And they hadn't announced it yet or anything like that. And I was looking into it, and I ran across some articles that was talking about that they were potentially going to be launching a stablecoin. And immediately in my mind, I was like, okay, so if the reason that XRP needs to be a high valuation is because there's only so much XRP, and if it's having to move trillions and trillions of dollars of assets, per day, because it's taking over the financial system, then XRP needs to be a high valuation. Otherwise, it won't be able to handle the volume, of the liquidity that's moving across the XRPL. So, that's why I was bullish on XRP. Then I heard that they were launching a stable coin. And with that switch flipped in my head. And I was like, okay, so if banks and institutions have told them, we don't want to use XRP because it's volatile. And again, and I use this because it's nice round numbers. If you're going to, if say I'm going to buy a company from you, and the deal is done, you're sending me the funds, because you bought it from me. So, you're sending me the funds, and you use XRP and the XRP Ledger, and you send me $1 billion. And at some point during that, transition, that transaction, XRP drops even 1%. And we've seen how quickly, crypto can move. If it drops even 1%, 1% of $1 billion is $10 million. So whenever, I forget which way the money was going, whenever the money gets to me, we'll say, you're sending me the money, and the money gets to me, and it's $10 million short of what we agreed on. Do you think I'm just going to be like, oh, well, that's the cost of doing business? I'm going to be like, no, where's the rest of the money? Where's that 10 million? Institutions and banks aren't going to stand for that, to lose $10 million. And that's just on a $1 billion transaction. There's plenty of larger transactions that go on out there. 10 billion, 50 billion, there's some large amounts of money that move around. People aren't going to lose money in transactions. unless it's a fee that they understand it's part of, the cost of doing business. Now, RLUSD is a stable coin that's backed by the US dollar. If you send me $1 billion, I am guaranteed to get $1 billion. Banks and institutions can get on board with that. Now, XRP, as part of that transaction, again, all it is a gas token. It's to pay the gas fee. And the cost of a transaction on the XRP Ledger, it's awesome if you're wanting to send money. I've done it. I've sent family members money using XRP. It costs next to nothing. It costs 0.00001 XRP to send a transaction. It doesn't matter if you're sending $1 or $10 billion. It costs a fraction of a cent or a fraction of an XRP. There is no reason in that scenario that XRP needs to be $100 or $10 or, $10,000. There's absolutely no reason for it. You need to understand what you're invested in. And again, I'm not telling you just believe what I'm saying. I would be just as guilty as the people that are feeding you nothing but bullish information. What I'm telling you is prove me wrong. Go online. I'll tell you where to go. Go on my account on X. Every single comment that I make about XRP, I reference or I cite where I'm finding my information and data. A lot of it is from Ripple's own website. The XRP scan is the official, explorer for the XRP ledger. The data that I was showing earlier, it is from the official XRP ledger website. The data is directly from the XRP ledger. It's not like somebody created it and threw it up. It is 100% legit information. If you have any questions, join our Discord. I'm on there constantly. I am more than happy to answer your questions. I genuinely just want to ensure that you're fully knowledgeable about what you're invested in. And if after that, you want to be all in and have every ounce of your money in XRP, I wish you the best. And I hope I'm wrong and I hope you get rich. I genuinely, honestly do. My heartburn is that I see the comments that people make on these posts about XRP, and it's obvious they have no clue what they're invested in. And it's like watching somebody, driving, 100 miles an hour towards a cliff, and I'm on the side of the road telling them there's a cliff, and they're not listening. That's what I feel like day in and day out. And again, and I'm not saying sell all your XRP. I'm just saying you might want to de-risk a little bit. I was telling people to de-risk at $3. We're almost at $2 now. If were bullish on XRP and you would have listened, you could have bought back in and had more XRP. I don't know how else to say it. There's just, you really need to make sure that you're doing your due diligence on what you're investing in. You can't just throw money at things anymore. I mean, in past cycles, before I was involved in crypto, I mean, I got in at the end of the last bull cycle. I have yet to see, huge returns. I mean, I saw like a 3 or 4x on my, on my XRP and my H bar and, all those ISO tokens that I was holding through the bear market. Because when XRP initially pumped, the rest of the ISO tokens pumped with it. And I sold all of them. I had Algorand, I had H bar, I had XLM, I had, XRP. I had the whole family, and I sold them all. And that's when I got into DeFi. I bought Aerodrome, I bought Morpho, I bought, a lot of the stuff that I have now, and made a bunch more money. And I learned DeFi, and I started using DeFi to stack more free crypto. Like I think just recently on these past, big dumps, I spent like a couple $100, plus and up. Actually, I take that back. I spent about $5,000 on Bitcoin about a month or two ago. But other than that, I've spent like $100 here, $100 there to plus up my bags just to feel like, that I'm, getting some more. But all of my bags, like about like 4 that I can name, I started with $800. And a couple of them at one point were worth like $8,000 before, all this dumping, of course. But I 10x'd my money just using liquidity pools. Like Plume, I started out with $800 and used Uniswap before Plume mainnet went live. And I was making, thousands of percent of yield on my Plume pools. My brother did the same thing, and a bunch of people in our community did the same thing. We built like huge bags of Plume. I have almost 100,000 Plume now. Yeah. So I mean, if Plume does anything, if Plume goes to $1, then I'll have 72 grand. So basically, what I'm trying to say is, put your emotions aside. I'm not calling your baby ugly. I know XRP, I know we can all get passionate about our projects. You need to be negative information, bearish information about your projects. Oh, looks like I lost you there for a minute. But actively seek out information that is contrary to your bullish outlook. And make sure that you verify it, both good and bad. Make sure that you verify the information, because information is only as good as, how accurate it is. If you're just believing every single thing that's posted, good and bad, you're going to get wrecked. If you believe just the good, you're probably going to get wrecked. If you believe just the bad, equally, you're probably going to get wrecked. You're going to potentially sell an asset that is going to do great things because you saw some bearish information. I know I made a bunch of money on Sol during the FTX debacle. If you weren't around for that, FTX was an exchange that went tits up because the Sam Bankman-Fried was doing a bunch of fraud. They were, propping up Solana for the longest time. So when that happened, Sol dumped hard and went down to like $30, $20, something like that. And I backed the truck up because, we all know, Solana is a monster. And so I loaded up on a bunch of Sol, it pumped back up, and I want to say I sold it like $100 or $120, something like that. Made like a 4 or 5x on it. And it was because I bought the FUD. Everyone was saying Sol's dead, Sol's over. Not everybody, but a lot of people. And I took a chance because I saw, what Sol was, before all of it. Just everyone, it was the middle of the bear market. Everybody was already, fudded out, and you know how people get. So anyway, XRP people got him. who did they get, Drew? Sam Bankman-Fried. Oh yeah. Drew's gonna fight Raul Paul. Man, I can pretty much guarantee that you'd beat him, man. What else we got here? Sack Nasty. I'm gonna go with Raul and say 1 year to go. Got to take some profits now and breathe for a bit. It's gonna been a long run for me. Yeah, I feel you, Sack Nasty. Everybody out there, I feel you. Up until recently, I owned no Bitcoin. I could have been buying Bitcoin back, and I think it was like $16,000 at one point during the bear market. If I would have put all of my money at the time just into Bitcoin, I'd have like 4 or 5 Bitcoin. And I'd have like a couple $100,000 right now. It's what, in hindsight, it's what I should have done. But in my stupid mind, again, I'm not always right. Make sure you do your own research. This was early on. But in my mind, I was like, stack all these alts because Bitcoin might do a 3 or a 4x, but alts, will do like a 10, 20, 30, 50x. So I'll make a bunch of money. I'll sell it all. I'll wait for the market to pull again and I'll buy a bunch of Bitcoin. That was my mentality. I've made some good money, but it's Bitcoin honestly would have been a much safer bet. And it's what I tell people nowadays is if you're new to crypto, just buy Bitcoin. With the majority of your portfolio, do some DeFi with it. You can lend it out, make a little bit of money with it, and use that yield. And then, use a small portion of your portfolio, maybe, 10, 20, 30%, whatever your risk tolerance is. And, get into some alts, some good, strong alts, Chainlink, Ethereum, things like that. And then, potentially DeFi, stake it, lend it out, use liquidity pools, full range liquidity pools, things like that to, lever up so that you can, earn more. And with those profits, take a percentage of them, 30, 40, 50% of those profits, buy more Bitcoin. You build those bags, those alt bags, so that you can, have more liquidity to earn more yield. And as that grows, you make more yield. You might start out where you're only making $100 a month, and then it will turn into 200, and then it will turn into 400, and then it will turn into 800. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint in DeFi. If you want to try to make quick money and use a very small portion and play with meme coins, that's fine if it's 1 or 2% of your portfolio. If you want to try your hand at trading, it's very, very complex, but there's some really good people out there. Frankie Candles is a good one. Drew has gotten really good. Kelly Kellum over at BitLab Academy is really good. Jason Casper, really good guy. But it takes a large time investment to get good at trading. DeFi is easy. If you do it right. So hodling is the easiest. Buying Bitcoin and just hodling it is your best bet. In DeFi, I always tell people, and there's people that will disagree, and that's fine. But I tell people start with lending, because if you're lending, really your only risk is wherever you're lending it, the platform, if it gets hacked or something. I like non-custodial platforms. It mitigates that risk. But with lending, you have full exposure to price appreciation and depreciation. So if the asset goes down, you fully feel it. If it goes up, you fully, you get all the profits. But you're always earning yield. So you're always stacking your bags. Staking, same thing. I don't like staking if there is like a couple of week cool down, like if you want to remove your liquidity and you got to like put in a request and wait a couple of weeks to get your liquidity. I don't like those. If it's 24 hours, 48 hours, or instant, I'm in. But staking and lending, your best bet. Price appreciation, you earn yield. It's like a savings account, that a high yield or a high interest savings account. It's great. If you want to get into liquidity pools, look at full range pools. Full range pools, it doesn't matter what happens in that pool. You're always going to be earning yield. You might only be earning 20 or 30%, but you're earning 20 or 30% APR on your assets for doing nothing but depositing it. You can go about your life. If you have lending, staking, and full range pools, you don't have to watch anything, really, for the most part. I mean, you check on it once a day just to make sure everything's cool. But you don't have. You can go to work. You can take care of your family, be doing yard work, take a vacation where go out camping where you're not going to have internet connectivity, and 90% chance, 95% chance when you get back online, all of your assets are going to be there. You're going to have more assets than you did. It's just, it's going to print you money. That's the power of DeFi. Now, if you want to, lever up your risk, Absolutely. There's advanced strategies that you can do. And, you can, in the description of this episode and on our channel, there's, we have a bunch of free courses that you can go on our YouTube channel. Actually, I'll show them real quick. So, if you scroll down, there's the DeFi Academy, and this is the bare bones basics. And we'll just teach you, what impermanent loss is, what is DeFi, initially, what is a hot wallet versus a cold wallet? What are the tools that I use to find liquidity pools? What are the platforms that, that I personally use? And, and how each of those work. We did an aerodrome tutorial that talks about aerodrome locks and how each week, you can, get airdrops, basically, of, crypto assets, just from voting. Basically you lock liquidity, and for that you vote and you earn money. But if you want to go to the next level, Jake Call, who's on our Wednesday show, has his own channel that you can click on here, and he does a lot of really good advanced strategies. David over at DeFi University, the guy is next level, like smart. He actually makes his living off nothing but DeFi. So, he can teach you advanced strategies over there. He has a membership of $97 a month. You can find the link again in the description. And we do make a little bit of money off of that. It doesn't cost you anything extra, but he gives us like kind of a finder's fee for, steering people his way. Just like to be, fully disclose, these kinds of things. Again, I'm all about integrity. So, but it's a great value. It's $97 a month, and you get Monday through Friday daily live calls with him and the rest of the community. And they talk about advanced strategies like borrow lending loops and ways that you can take, say $100,000 worth of Bitcoin. You can lend it out and earn, take out a loan against it while you're still earning, take out a loan against it, take that loan, re-lend it out, borrow against that, re-lend it out, borrow against that. And you can basically loop, and you're levering up your risk at the same time. So you need to understand before you do these things, what that entails. But it is a great way, if you do it responsibly, to lever up your earning potential on a limited, amount of assets. It basically gives you a lot more liquidity to earn with. So it's the term is levering up. So anyway, let's see if we got any questions. Base network is a majority of my bag now. Yeah, same here. I almost exclusively use base network whenever possible. I'm pissed right now at Plasma. As soon as I'm able to get my liquidity out of this pool that I'm in, Plasma pool, I'm never going to use Plasma again until they can show me. For days now, I've been trying to get my liquidity out of this pool. I love Base though. The gas fees are cheap. It's fast. I've never had any issues with it. Ethereum, I avoid like the plague. If the network gets busy, the fees get expensive. But Base, I personally think it's the future of DeFi and RWAs. There's a lot of cross integrations, interoperability, even with Plume. I've seen Morpho. There's, basically a connection between Morpho and Plume. And a bunch of other connections too. I won't dive down that, but I've been going for a while here. Yeah, about an hour and a half. Let me think. How should we end this episode? So really, I want to stress that, will you make money off XRP? Yes, you are going to make money off XRP. What could that look like realistically? I personally, and I don't do price predictions, but a lot of people out there that are a lot smarter than me, and I've looked at their, numbers and how they came to them, $6 to $8, here in, the next year, in a year or two, I could see that happening. A 3x or something like that. I could see that happening. Especially with, the hype machine that, XRP has. However, is it going to go to 10, 20, 30, $40 or more? Not anytime soon, if at all. Honestly, when we get out of this, of this environment that all of crypto has been in, of speculation, a lot of these prices on a lot of these projects that we love are going to get really real, really fast. And it's up to us to do our due diligence and understand what we're invested in so that we can be properly positioned. And that includes ladder out strategies, understanding the assets you hold, understanding when, at what price point, have a plan ahead of time, not just when everything starts pumping, I'll figure it out when it happens. Sit down, put pen to paper, build a spreadsheet, whatever you're going to do. And I offer a free spreadsheet in our Discord. If you want to join our Discord, links in the description. And it has like all the automations built into it. You just put in what asset you hold and what percent, that you want to, in what price that you want to sell, to ladder out. And it will automatically, calculate, okay, well, you need to sell this many tokens at this price, this many tokens at this price. It will break it all down for you. So if you want to join our Discord, jump on in there. Great community in there. There we go. So, are you going to ladder out into stables? Are you going to ladder out into Bitcoin? What is it that you are going to ladder out into to lock in that value? Because it's one thing to invest in crypto and think that you're going to get rich, but what are you going to do with it? Like if you do, like right now, if you opened up your wallet and there was $1 million, other than, maybe pay some bills or pay off some debts or something like that, really, what are you going to do with it? And even then, do you really just want to pay off a bunch of debts, or is there smarter things you can do with it? Could you take a portion of it and DeFi it to where, like instead of paying off, say, a $50,000 loan, could you take $10,000 of that, put it in somewhere where you could earn 10%, easily, on USDC, on a stable coin. I know a couple of places I could tell you right now, you can earn 10 to 15% or more on stable coins and, earn, $800 or something like that a month off of it, and use that $800 to pay the bill, to pay on that debt. And you still have $40,000 that isn't dedicated, to in that, USDC, that $10,000. So you still have $40,000. So you can use DeFi to generate income to help you pay bills. I highly suggest, if you're doing something like that, that you do something that's not risky. Like don't go getting into, some meme coin liquidity pool. I'm talking, go on to something like Coinbase, where, potentially you have, I believe Coinbase and Uphold, there's a couple of places you can go where if you hold USDC on the platform, you can earn like 5%, some places 10%, yield, just basically like a bank account. And if something happens, I know that Uphold is FDIC insured. So up to $250,000, you're insured. So if something happens, then you're covered. So there's a lot of things that you can do, and you need to plan this out, because I can't stress it enough. I mean, look at the statistics on people that win the lottery, hundreds of millions of dollars, and they're broke a couple of years later because they go out and they buy, Lambos, and they go out and buy mansions and boats and all these, buy their family, members' houses and stuff. And they don't think about the property taxes. They don't think about the insurance. They don't think about, the cost, the bills, the utilities for a house that size. You need to figure out what you're going to do with your profits so that you can earn more and you can continue to grow that so that you can really change your life. So, what up, Jay? All right. Well, I'm going to let you all go. I've been going for almost 2 hours. I'm going to go get some dinner, but I hope this helped out, people out there. If you're, invested in XRP and maybe you weren't fully knowledgeable about it, I hope this helped. If you're invested in any crypto, and I hope this inspires you to go and really dig into that project and learn and ensure that you fully understand what you're invested in, because you might be invested in vaporware and you might be the exit liquidity for somebody else that does their research and gets out, when the price is up, and basically uses your liquidity to get out. A lot of this is a really expensive game of musical chairs, and the music's playing right now, and everyone's happy and everyone's dancing. Well, not happy and dancing. The prices are down, but when the prices start pumping, you're going to see it. Everybody's going to be euphoric. Everybody's going to be thinking everything's going to the moon, and everyone's going to be happy. And the smart ones, the more excited and the more happy and the drunker people get, on the euphoria, you're going to see the ones that aren't, drinking the euphoria. They're going to start sitting down in the couple of chairs that are available, and they're going to take their profits. And the people that don't have the emotional discipline, they're going to keep dancing around and drinking the euphoria, and they're going to, be spinning and not paying attention to what's going on. And all of a sudden the music's going to stop, and they're going to look they're going to ride their bags back into a bear market, and all those profits are going to be gone. And hopefully you still have your original investment. If you bought the tops, like if you bought back in December when everything was pumping there for a minute, you might be at a loss, and you just have to take it on the chin and cash out, or you got to wait through the next bear market and hope that the next bull market you can make it back. There's a lot of people that have done that. So I'll leave you with that, but I wish you all the best. I hope you all make a ton of money. And until next time, Veteran Crypto out.